The opening words I chose today are from Ernest Holmes in a book called This Thing Called You. You, like all others, are seeking the joy of living. You wish to be needed, to be loved, to be included in the great drama of life. This urge is in every individual. It is in everything. The rose exists to express beauty. Root and branch conspire with nature to give birth to blossom. An artist will starve in his garret that he may chisel an angelic form from a slab of marble, compelling the unyielding substance to accept his breath of creation. Not only human beings, but everything in nature is endowed with this creative urge. Your soul belongs to the universe. The ceaseless flow of original life. Your mind is an outlet for expression of the universal substance, the creative intelligence. There is something within you beyond all doubt and fear, something within you that has never been limited by your acts or destroyed by your feeling. This thing called you is spirit individualized. Many of you have sat in silence and in grief over this past week, and Lawrence lit a beautiful candle for us. So at this moment, we will take that breath in and close our eyes for a moment of silence on behalf of every person affected by this last week, which is our world. We'll remain standing as you are able and close our silence with the affirmation that you will find printed in your bulletin. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Spirit of life, deep within me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand. Make life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, within me, within me. This morning's reading, unlike what I had printed in the bulletin because I switched things around, is from a book called You Are Enough by David Walker. And you might find it surprising as I move through this reading and when I go on to the sermon that I'm talking about us and I and we with all that's been happening. But in my understanding of how life works, that's the only place we get to do the work with ourselves. Nobody expected much of me. I didn't expect much of me, so I lived a rather unremarkable life. Was there an epiphany that changed everything? I'd like to say there was an epiphany, and that it was incredibly dramatic, so I could inspire you to great heights by telling you a spectacular story. but I can't. There was no epiphany, only the slow evolution of an average mind, and if I inspire you in any way, it will be by reminding you of something that deep down you already know. You are enough. You matter because you exist. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You are not your body, your thoughts, your feelings, your career, your review, your money, your relationships, your accomplishments, your experience of life. You are none of these things. You are that which is aware of all these things. You are mind. You are not what you see in the mirror. You are that which is doing the seeing. You are mind. When you put your focus on this simple truth, you have creative freedom. No matter what happens in your life, you are always in a position to start again, to start something new. I am enough. I am more important than anything I ever accomplish, for I am the sacred presence of life itself. Thank you, choir. Beautiful. Every Sunday, just lifting us with your beautiful sounds, and those of you who are visiting may not know, but if you come at 10 o'clock, you can sing with them and sound just as beautiful. So this morning's sermon is entitled, This Thing Called You. And I thought a lot about it after the events of last week and thought, well, maybe I should talk about something else. And I thought a little bit more about it, and the place from which we give is within us. And what we know about that, and how we hold that, and how we treat that, and how we nurture that thing in us, and who we think we are, is what we behave from. So I thought it was still relevant today. I was asking myself, what if my highest form of praise was just to be who I am unfolding without judgment, without trying and striving to be something else? What if there was no need for religion or belief, but just listening to the still small voice that calls and urges and moves you forward? Could it be that simple? What's perfect, as always, is when you are dwelling on an idea, things come to you in just the right time. So as I stood in Reverend Kate's office, looking at her altar, just preparing for this moment, she had a little sign up on the altar. And it said, "Let me be a vessel." I mean, let me not pretend to be something else. This thing called you. The question of life, who am I? And this whole idea of navel gazing, and people like to make fun of it, and people think it's silly, and they like to laugh at each other and laugh at people who look like they're concerning themselves about that. But I think some of the laughter is because it's terrifying, looking on the inside. This is this endless and unknown territory. Could I possibly think that in me there's enough from which to live and give? There was a song that I wrote in the beginning of my spiritual journey. It was called, "What If I Believed?" What if I believed, what if I was sure that the ocean tides never cease, that for all disease there's a cure? What if I believed that you and I are one? I would never forsake you, our struggle would be done. What if I was positive I was in love's embrace? What if I surely knew love created our race? I'd be beautiful, I'd be light, I'd know every action was perfect, divine, right? I'd be beautiful. I'd be light. It matters what you believe. What if I believed that in me life itself was expressing, and that I couldn't do me wrong, and that I didn't have to try to be something else, and that in doing that, that would be the only error I could make, is not showing up as I was. Am I this physical body? Am I my intellect? Am I a combination of genes? The culmination of my experiences? Am I some great being's idea? Am I my parents' idea? Am I here on purpose or by chance? And so many have tried to answer this question, and we all try to answer this question, and every major expression of life tries to answer this question. Any Shakespeare fans out there? All the world's a stage, and on it we are merely players, actors, right? You the actor. There's this wonderful piece of writing called Pathway of the Roses by a man named Christian Larson, and in that he speaks to spirit and in you, and says, who are you? And he answers, I am a spiritual being. What are you? I am the light of God uniquely shining. Where do you live? I live in the presence of God now and always. Why are you here? To shine. So simply, and you replace the words with the word that works for you. There's a wonderful expression in the book that I quoted from, You Are Enough, and he says, if you don't like the word God, for God's sake, just find a word that means enoughness for you. Okay? Whatever it is. So if you say, I'm a spiritual being, I am the light of love uniquely shining, I live in the presence of love now and always, what am I here for? To shine, whatever works for you. Nature, peace, light, power, beauty, joy, whatever that is. And you look at even scientists and Einstein, I'm always interested in his journey toward the mystical. As we all know, he took that journey. And he talks about the human being as something that's the substance of stars in a different configuration. Human being is part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. And Ernest Holmes, who I quoted earlier, talks about it as the science of religion, us being thinkers, thinking into the universe, and being part of the manifest world because of our ideas. One of the ideas that someone has about who we are and what we're here for that relates to what I saw on Reverend Kate's altar this morning is Martha Graham, the beautiful dancer. I love this saying of hers, and I used to read it before I had any understanding of anything about religion or spirituality, but it just seemed to me that this was true. There is a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium, and it will be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, or how valuable it is, or how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep yours clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep yourself open and aware to the urges that motivate you. Keep the channel open. No artist is pleased. No satisfaction, whatever, at any time. There's only a queer divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive. Keep the channel open. The unique expression of life itself, whether you consider yourself spirit or actor, player, thinker, artist, channel, vessel. We're all these things in our own unique way. David Walker, in the book You Are Enough, talks about his own life, and he's a very simple guy. I had an opportunity to hear him speak, and he would just be talking, and all of a sudden he'd say, "Puttanesca!" because he liked the word. And there was no other reason for it, but he said, "Isn't that a great word?" And he would just stop in the middle of his talk and say, "Puttanesca." Say it with me, "Puttanesca, Puttanesca, Puttanesca." Doesn't that feel good? Totally silly, but that's him, and that's who he was, and that's what he felt. And he was willing to share that silliness aspect of him in front of 1,000 people that were waiting to hear his great and wise words. Okay? Think about the people you admire most in your life, and you'll often find that it's because they are being themselves. We love authenticity. So when we talk about you are enough, it doesn't mean there's any discouragement from accomplishing things. It means that you're not identified with the accomplishment, as if that's you. It comes from knowing that whatever you're giving from what's within you is enough and doesn't need to be compared to anyone else. And yet you are worthy of the life you're here to express uniquely as you. This is your gift to community. It's you. I think about beautiful Marcia Mello, who came up here with her outfit, which I absolutely adore looking at her every time I get to see her walk around. The beautiful flower that she is. And think about if she was trying to be someone else. Okay? The beauty of each one of you and what you bring in your expression. Only you can bring that. I'm going to tell you a story of a young man. As a boy, he played well with others and was quiet and loved to fantasize about stories of princes and swords. One day, he whacked up a plant in the house, pretending to free Sleeping Beauty from the brambles. His parents were quite upset with him. You must separate your fantasy from reality. He grew up to absorb all that happened around him. He looked for ways to express himself and didn't find his groove in school or softball leagues. His parents expected him to do well in school, to behave, to follow their instructions, to be normal and happy. They had no idea who he was or what he dreamed about, because they forgot to ask while they were busy having him try to meet their expectations. He began to feel lost, so he found comfort in friends who were lost, and they found comfort in drinking and drugs. And one day his parents sent him away because they were afraid he would hurt himself, ruin his life. Later he looked for someone else to tell him who he was and what to do, because he had learned that that was the way you did it. So he joined the armed forces. And then he came back from sanctioned killing, and everyone expected him to be normal and happy. Now he is finding his own way to his own normal and to his own happy. And this man is my son. I'm anxious to get to know him for the first time. What journey might he have had if I and his father had known that how he showed up in the first place was enough? And this is not to blame parents and to go through that whole thing where we do about, if only my parents, if only I were better. It's not that. It's the idea of, when you think about it, Maya Angelou said this so eloquently. I did what I did when I knew what I knew. And when I knew better, I did better. Okay? So now that we have an idea that we might just be enough, just who we are, and we think about the messages we might have received, whether it was from parents or from a teacher or from a religious person or someone who said, somehow you're not measuring up. It was a lie. It was a lie. What lie are you still believing about yourself? This thing called you is life itself expressing uniquely as you. You can't do you wrong. And I believe with everything in my being that when we are in line with that which calls us from within, we are doing good in the world. When we know that we're made of the same stuff as the sun and the moon and the stars, we do no harm. When we know that as we are, We are equal. We are on purpose. We have a right to our dreams. We thrive. I individualize life itself. Therefore, I am enough. That beautiful son wrote something to me, a poem, and at the end of the poem it said, "No one is beautiful like you." No one is beautiful like you. May these words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart serve yours. Let that be your way.